So our next speaker is Steve Elkins, who made the film piece that you saw earlier with Gerard in it. Steve's a filmmaker, writer, musician, and composer and photographer. And he made this as a short extra piece to a much longer film called Reach of Resonance about a number of musicians and composers. And he's currently in pre-production on his second feature film, part of which will be shot at the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, which is very exciting. So we wanted to hear from you why you made this film, how you got interested in this.
Sure, it's a pretty bizarre story. First of all, let me just say it's an honor to be here amongst all of you tonight for this event. I was really excited when Gerard asked me to be a part of this panel, but I was also a little bit worried because I felt that my relationship to the riot was so peripheral that almost anything I have to say about it would just kind of derail the whole talk. But I think that's because I didn't know anything. Well, let me put it this way. I think I'm the only person up here tonight who experienced the riot first as a piece of music. And so I just want to talk very briefly about some of the unexpected cultural ripple effects that happened as a result of Bob doing his piece. One of them was just simply that when I first heard the piece, which was about roughly 15 years after the riot happened at my friend's house here in Berkeley, it moved me so deeply that it was one of several experiences I had that provoked me to make my first documentary feature film, in which I contrast a number of musicians who I feel are doing work with music that's similar to what Bob did with his piece All the Rage, in which they're using music as a sort of microscope to place on things that people wouldn't normally connect with music, to try to expand the vocabulary we have to talk about these things through sound as opposed to through more recognizable verbal language, so that hopefully we can talk about them more deeply. It was interesting, though, that when I was researching this riot in order to provide any kind of archival imagery of the riot itself, that virtually none existed. At least I certainly couldn't find any. I looked for a couple of years. Actually, the first place I went was to the GLBT historical archives, and no one there could find anything on it. And so I spent another couple of years looking around. Someone eventually led me back to Gerard, who happened to work there the whole time and had actually contributed most of the materials that the archives have, some of which are actually out in front by the front door. There's actual shattered glass from the entryway to the California State Building. There's some of the protest flyers that were included in this film. It's such a surprise to be a part of a living history panel when it took so long for me to find any history on this at all. Never would have predicted that. So it's an honor to be here.
I should add that the film that Steve made is his first feature film ever. It's won a major prize, and it's scheduled to show at the Louvre and at the Tate Modern and at the National Gallery in Washington. So Steve has launched his career as a filmmaker in a quite impressive way.
Thanks. One other thing I just realized I should probably point out. It was interesting in the process of making my feature, seeing some of the other ripple effects that or rather, how more people can find out about the riot and the events that sparked it through a piece of music like Bob's. The film I shot was filmed in about 10 countries, and I was amazed that actually the majority of those countries had copies of the CD in the most random, out-of-the-way places. It's out there. So that the voices, it struck me that the voices of the people who took part in the riot wouldn't just be heard here. I mean, they're being heard elsewhere in the most surprising parts of the planet. In fact, I remember walking into a very conservative classical music store in the central square in Prague. They sold nothing but Beethoven and Chopin and all this stuff. And then there was a copy of All the Rage just right in the middle. I couldn't help but wonder if an activist planted it there or something, but there it was. So that was interesting. It was, I met professors in different parts of the world, various universities who are teaching some of Bob's pieces in their coursework. And All the Rage is a major part of that, so people are learning about what happened at this riot. And I'm trying to think of anything. Anyway, there's been a ripple effect, and it's kind of incredible. That's something that happens so quickly and that there's so little documentation of actually found a way to spread.
Thank you.